Okay, here we are. We're back in Midwood live from streaming from Midwood Part 2. We got so screwed by we crashed the servers, we broke the internet again because of our truth. The forces of evil in the universe are shadow banning us and preventing our truth from getting out, just like they did to Bob Marley and all of the great. Now they just, they just make you irrelevant, so, you know. They just make it so there's no ground for the seed to fall into. The seed, there's nowhere for it to grow. So, okay. So one thing I did want to talk. Okay, in the sense that I kind of like this idea that they're making their poems into something that is sort of not a product. Something that's sort of voluntarily. We were talking about the conversation I was having about poetry, and there was I'm not sure who Galvin, who I was having the conversation with, was referring to. I think maybe the language poets. I'm not sure, but there's any number of like this is part of the whole Rimbaud, Mallarmé, whatever, finance dissociation poetry thing. Although I don't think there's a great lecture by Bruce Andrews on Pen Sound. If you go on pensound.org, which is a great poetry archive, there's a great talk by Bruce Andrews, I think from the Poetry Project in the 80s, about Rimbaud, and I forget what it's called, but about sort of rebel poetry, I guess. It's a cliche now, I guess, this is what I'm discovering is like a lot of the stuff that I sort of molded myself in. Now that I'm like middle aged, now they're just cliches. They just seem like cliches. Um, Everything that was cool yesterday, electric guitar, blues guitar, forget it. But I think there is some truth to this idea that I have an antisocial tendency, but also um, I resent the idea of value judgments in art or quality judgments or merit so-called based, particularly in the goddamn MFA industrial credential clout economy, the clout based poetics that we currently are era that we're in. And I mean, I guess there's definitely good poems and weak poems, maybe you might say. I wanted to be weak, maybe. I don't know. What? Why should I come on strong? So I do think there's truth to the idea of like, I don't. I guess I could. I wish I could write stuff that it was a little more publishable, or I used to try to do that. I used to actually write. You know, if you look at my myself included book, the burrito bowl poem or the public access poem or some of the poems in my sex book or that's the way I used to try to write. I was never I had I got to a point where I was pretty good at it and then I became a heavy drug user. The thing about when you are a heavy drug user is it kind of provides the movement. You don't if you can talk yourself into a movement, that's kind of like where the magic is. In sobriety, just through like the situation and the effect of your words, that's what the magic is. Whereas like a lot of times you smoke, you kind of get that effect anyway. And so it feels like maybe something super profound. Like a lot of my titles and shit, right, are like just these kind of phrases from life, like uh, let me see, saying the quiet part loud, saying the quiet part loud. A day later, history. These are things that when you're high, it's like fast food. When you're high, you're like, oh yeah, fast food. Yeah, man, fast food. What a fucking good title. Write it down, dude. Yeah, fast food. I gotta use that for a title. My books are full of titles like these. Then you go back later and look at them, you're like, sober people are probably like, huh. There's all these rough non sequiturs where I just jam things together, make no sense. There's no punctuation. There's no capitalization. You know, there's bad language poetry everywhere. There's spots of bad. Okay, well, the CIA, you know, cloud seeded, abstract expressionist type of language. I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Okay, I fell for all of the CIA. Apparently, Jim Morrison was a CIA plant. His dad, because his dad was in the Navy or something, right? His dad was like his dad. Okay, apparently Jim Morrison's dad, I think, was like at the Gulf of Tonkin. He was like there when Vietnam like fucking started. He was like on the goddamn ship or whatever. So you know, he was like a pretty elite naval guy. So apparently Jim Morrison was an op, and he's a CIA kind of like sex symbol. I don't believe it. I think it's I think Jim Morrison was a poetry theater. Well, apparently now, you know, now it's cool to brand people theater nerds. I'm seeing this everywhere in the culture. It's just like, oh, Jim Morrison's a theater nerd. Like you've sort of discovered, you've pulled the wool over, or you know, you've pulled the curtain out from you know, people. If you're like, oh, there's just a theater kid. Timothy Chalamet's just got theater kid energy. Or you know, Jim Morrison, theater kid. I don't know. You be the judge. You be the judge. See, that's the kind of thing that when you're high, you're like, yeah, that's going in the poem. You be the judge. It's just like you hear that all the time, and so you catch it. Yeah, let me write it down. You be the judge. Okay. You be the fucking judge, people. I don't know. I'm not the cultural commentator this generation deserves. I'm the cultural commentator this generation needs. And here, I do want to make this pitch because I know I have no chance at this whatsoever, and I know it's even like kind of gross for me to even bring this up. But I do, maybe I brought this up last time. I do think they should bring me in to host the Daily Show. I think I would be fucking perfect. I'd go back to like the Craig Kilborn era. I know people want to forget Craig Kilborn, but if I could hit somewhere between like a Craig Kilborn, Jon Stewart kind of era, where it'd be like a little more kind of fun, and I don't know. Jon Stewart was great and everything, but it was like it was so hyper. I mean, that era was hyper political, and thank God for Jon Stewart. I mean, I kind of can't believe that he came back. Actually, I guess it's sort of working, but I also kind of think it's, I don't know, man. Like Apple, I guess, buried him because he wanted to investigate certain things that they didn't want to investigate. So he had to just boom, go back to the people on Comedy Central, where he belongs, I guess. But I think I would be, if I did the daily, yeah, I'd just do it like this. I'd just do a live stream. And I'd talk about, I don't know. We're trying to get into like the deeper psycho spiritual dilemmas here and what is really going on. And I don't know. Are people interacting? They're interacting. They're on their phones. I mean, everybody's doing it through screens. We're all vlogging. We're all, you know, apparently TikTok now wants still pictures with a lot of text. They want at least 200 characters in the description and still pictures with music. That's the newest trend. I'm your trend forecaster here. It's all filler here. Yeah, so I don't know. Is the poetry having effect? Is it doing any good? I'd like to believe. I think, you know, we're influencing each other. We all influence each other. That's the beauty part. You know, it's not a one-way thing. It's like when you're live, you don't even know what you're going to be influenced by. You might be influenced by something totally inconsequential and weird. You know, you might see something at an open mic that's terrible, and you might be influenced by that. I know I am. Maybe that's I like outsider art. You know, in an increasingly like homogenized, boring kind of like, I don't know, people love corporate perfection and smooth jazz and weather channel music. People like that stuff better than like so-called authenticity, which seems like poser or I don't know, fake or something to people now. But I'm at odds. I do feel like I'm at odds. Yeah, I want to be alive. I want to be hot. Show me something, baby. Like John Cassavetes. Maybe I studied all of the boomer culture. You know, I was watching. There's this really good video of Richard Lewis's mansion. It's an amazing. Watch it. It's on YouTube. It's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and he walks you around his house in the Hollywood Hills. And I hate to say, because I love Richard Lewis, and I feel like I have the same. I would bond with him. I like all the same things he likes. But it's like he's got the ultimate kind of like boomer culture shrine. I'm gonna roast him. He's got he's got like cover of Rolling Stone magazine with like Jimi Hendrix, and he's like, I just love Hendrix. I love Rolling Stone. You know, I grew up reading it, so I framed it. I put it on my wall. It's like, that's the ultimate kind of boomer. He's just got like big pictures of the Beatles everywhere. What else? Pictures of Lenny Bruce all over the place. There's a picture of Lenny Bruce getting arrested. George Carlin's in the background. So it's cool stuff. He's got this amazing painting of Larry David. Apparently, Larry David sat for a portrait and would sit for this artist like in the 70s and 80s. I think that's kind of interesting. Bohemian life, Bohemian Larry David era. You can feel that in Curb Your Enthusiasm. You can feel that he's somebody who got successful and rich after he was middle-aged and had kind of been through the ringer. Even though, he had worked in network television and stuff. You could tell, like, he had this, I don't know, there is something about him that was kind of like, I don't know, I don't know. He wrote for Saturday Night Live and shit. I mean, nowadays, I couldn't even imagine being good enough. When I see all the, shout out to Huggy. Huggy on TikTok does these SNL clips. It's unbelievable. And what's out there? I was just watching this one, Carson and Phil Donahue in retirement. Dana Carvey as Carson. Daryl Hammond as Donahue. Daryl Hammond's Donahue is like unbelievable. I mean, Phil Hartman's Donahue is hilarious. Also, all of the Nick the Lounge Singer skits. Oh my God, I've never actually seen the Nick the Lounge Singer skits. They're like their own fucking like narrative TV show. And that's just a huge, my whole personality is based on Nick the Lounge Singer, to be quite honest. Like, I ripped everything I ever did off Nick the Lounge Singer. I just think there's nothing, talk about theater kid energy. Jesus Christ. How about Nick the Lounge Singer? I mean, those skits, those 70s SNL skits have an awareness of kind of like public infrastructure. It seemed like that generation was more tuned into how things worked. All of those skits have a lot of texture about, this is the auto train. And he goes around and he interviews everybody on the auto train. The auto train is like a train that you drive your car on. So the idea with Nick the Lounge Singer is he has like the worst gigs in show business. He's on the auto train. He plays like this army base in like Greenland. He's got the worst gigs. So there's all these different episodes from all these different eras. There's one from the 80s even with Eddie Murphy. He's at a fucking bar mitzvah. Nick the Lounge Singer at the bar mitzvah. And it's interesting to see the songs that Bill Murray picks. Because it's almost like he's a DJ or something. He can sing whatever he wants. He's got Paul Schaefer there. So he's got really excellent Celebrate Good Times, Come On. And he really Nick the Lounge Singer is just, I don't know. Bill Murray does these albums. I don't know if poetry fans out there have seen this, but a few years ago, he did like a tour and shit where he did live readings of like West Side Story. He sang songs from West Side Story, and then he did like live readings of like Walt Whitman poems with like a cello and shit. I think they're on Spotify. To be honest, they're not good. They're not good. They're corny. He should have did Nick the Lounge Singer. Is what I'm saying, because it's kind of like Nick the Lounge Singer. It's like he's got an accompanist and he's doing like a vocal, but it's like he didn't, he needs to come to Easy Paradise. We'll tap Bill Murray into like the frequency you need to be in if you're gonna read Song of the Open Road with like a fucking cello or whatever. First of all, don't read it with a cello. Or if you're going to, like, I don't know. You need some skronk in there. You know, you need some Arto Lindsay in there, I guess. I don't know. That's all dad culture now. You know what? That's yesterday's avant-garde. Today's avant-garde is pancakes. It's smooth. It's what's genuinely new. You know, rather than just like trying to rehash what was deemed by our parents to be. I mean, we are gonna rewrite the canon, I guess, probably when the boomers die. It's already happening. If you look at fucking Rolling Stone magazine, right? I remember the top 500 song lists that they would put out, and it's so gross. It's always, I mean, talk about competitive art, you know, and value based. You know, this is why I had to move away from that mindset. It's just like I didn't want to be around top 500 songs ever written, top 500, top 100 guitarists, top 100 vocalists. It's like, how do you know? Fucking Jack White is in the top 20 guitarists, or Joe. You know, it's like Eddie Van Halen. I don't even think was in the top 80 or something. It's like, give me a break. Pull your head out of your ass. And so the top 500 songs has been heavily. I mean, when I was in high school, I think number one was Yesterday. Maybe it was Smells Like Teen Spirit. It was one or the other. You know, that was just assumed. It was like controversial that Smells Like Teen Spirit was on the list. Because it was like, oh, fuck, okay. This song has been like recorded within the last, 20 years or whatever. And then it was like RSP, ACT, VH1 would always do this kind of shit too. Top 100 songs of all time. And it was always the same shit. Satisfaction. What's going on, usually, probably. Like a Rolling Stone, of course. Maybe Like a Rolling Stone was number one. Who the fuck knows? But they revised the lists. Now it's woke. To reflect the current era, which is fine. But, I don't know. It's what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? We're artists. Yeah, I don't think the AI is gonna fucking replace us. You know, maybe the AI will make graphic design or advertisements, or it's just like self-driving cars. I think it's kind of like it's based on our intellectual property. It's based on our thinking. So it's already kind of in the past. It doesn't really matter how many permutations it can come up with. Like, it's based on something that already happened. It's not really like human beings can surprise themselves with imagination, with new possibilities. You know, that's kind of what poetry is all about. And all the, poetry is just like a sandbox, really, to play, language being free, really, if you've got the time. You got a pen, paper, or even, if you got a smartphone, you can live stream now. I consider this to be an oral poem, to be as pretentious about it as possible. All of my live streams are one long oral poem, Homeric epic of the modern age. The micro intricacies of the inner anxiety is the epic, the Trojan War within, of psychiatry, of investigating what's going in here, and just being a massive dumbass failure. In the idiocracy, though, you might look pretty good in a world of, I'm just trying to pass on. I was never assimilated into a system, really, that like demanded I do things like okay. So to go back to the like publishing, to get things published in American Poetry Review or Virginia Quarterly Review or Tupelo Quarterly or whatever the fuck, or to get into an MFA program to get their stamp of approval to say you can be one of the writers in this country. You might get to eat. You might get to procreate and buy a house from your writing. The rest of you, good luck. You're going to have to make your poetry pay in the free market. Good luck. I don't know. Maybe if I cleaned up, stopped doing drugs, and really like hunkered down, and I don't. To be honest, I don't know if I could get into a fucking MFA program. If I was gonna do it at this point, I would probably want to get paid, and I'd probably want to get paid a lot of money. I would want to make at least $30,000 a year probably to do an MFA program at this point. I think that I've proven myself at a very high level. I'm like a blue chip, the 39-year-old freshman, rookie of the year. I'd be in class with a bunch of 21-year-olds, which I don't know. I mean, I already feel like the teacher. So anyway, okay, part of my poetics is to be shitty. It's like Louie Louie. I think Louie Louie is probably the greatest song ever made. In a democratic society, I think Louie Louie represents the highest attainable, which is just these kind of 5 anonymous people that came from a provincial area that's had sort of a fluke noise rock. Like Louie Louie is almost, free jazz. It's almost like Bitches Brew or something, really. I mean, it's definitely more fucking noise rock than Sonic Youth is. It's definitely more dream gaze than Sonic Youth is. So I think Louie Louie is this abstract, lo-fi, distorted, it's not totally literal. It's not totally readable. It's not totally legible. The FBI famously did an investigation trying to figure out if the lyrics were obscene or not. And they could not, they said it was unintelligible at any speed. That's what I want the FBI to say about my poetry. In fact, if I can get that blurb, I want that blurb on my first selected. Unintelligible at any speed. I think that's a good goal. I don't think the FBI should know what we're talking about. In fact, I was thinking about this. My poetry is almost like, in Airplane, there's the 2 guys, and there's Beaver's mom who speak jive. They have their own language because they have to say everything in their own form of expression. That's what I feel like I do in my poetry. It's sort of a way of speaking jive, if you will. You probably won't, but maybe, the more adventurous among us will speak jive in our poetry. It's like a street language, right? It's not a college language. It's not the Westminster Dog Show. I have that line in my poem, Pound Puppies versus Westminster Dog Show. That's what that's about. I feel like a pound puppy, okay? These kids that go to Columbia are fucking in the Westminster Dog Show. They're going to win blue ribbons and shit. To me, it's like what happened to that cantankerous element in American poetry, the Gregory Corso heckling at the reading, wearing clothes from the thrift store. Now that shit's all been upcycled, but I feel like I have to represent poor people. Everything I do is super Catholic, is what I realize. Just my mode. I have to suffer. I have to serve. I have to go every Monday night. I have to serve these people. I have to serve people by helping people get on stage and spreading, just everybody visibility, spread, people discovering each other, making friends, collaborating, more culture, stronger, more songs, more art, more books, more readings, more open mics, more lit mags, more Instagram poetry accounts, more video. Why are poets not on TikTok? This is something I want to ask at the open mic. How many fucking open, the comedians, I guess I don't really see them, but they're on TikTok. Ann Van Epps, shout out Van Epps, is on TikTok. It's like, are poets on TikTok? I don't think so. I don't know. Get on, why not? I mean, maybe I am like, just like, I don't know, some kind of weird propagandist for it that's like unwittingly shoveling people into the surveillance app that can see our souls through our pupils and read our minds. But I think we have to colonize TikTok, okay? Because it's, it's news. It's news that stays news. People want poetry. It's a lie that poetry is this unpopular thing that's not profitable. It's a lie. One of the things I like about poetry is that it's not profitable. That's why I like it. I don't want money. I hate money. Fuck money. Fuck money. I wipe my ass with money. Fuck this evil. See this? See this? Fuck this evil, evil, evil. I shit on this. I shit on this. I mean, I'd like to have it. I will welcome money, okay? But like, I really think that it's pathetic how poets of our era think it's like this great thing to get all this money. You know, good for you. You won a fucking grant. Good for you. You won some big fucking prize. That's just a bunch of government funded bullshit with all the other fucking narcs and all the ops and the agents and the people who are bought and sold. The people whose poetry has got the stamp of approval from the USDA of fucking boring poetry. Milk fucking 2% milk poetry. I will not fucking stand for it, okay? We are the Motorhead. We are the goddamn Lemmy of fucking poetry, okay? Do yourself a favor. Go listen to the song 1916. Apparently World War I was the most traumatic event in human history. They lost thousands of people for idiotic reasons. We have to think fast, or else that will happen again. This automation thing is going to leap us into a whole new fucking paradigm, and people are going to get slaughtered if we don't see the future. So we have to go into our minds, and we have to mentally project ourselves in the future. We have to see it, and we have to write it down. We have to go to open mics. We have to share it with each other. Our visions of how to save ourselves. Save each other. Right? We want to save each other. We love each other. Right, Mr. Helper? Isn't that right, Mr. Helper? Even the comedians. Even the comedians we're fine to save. I mean, as long as they shut the fuck up. And listen. And open yourselves and be vulnerable. And, oh my God, I'm seeing way too many Trump impersonations. Yes, okay, on TikTok, this is not funny. We don't want to see this. Fuck this criminal. Put his ass in jail. The Supreme Court, oh, Jesus Christ. We are so fucked. We are insanely fucked. Biden's got to get reelected or replaced. I'm ready for the Mesa Prize. Replace his ass. We don't mind. No one will care. Replace him. With anyone. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so, you know, to some degree, I want my poetry to be not a product. Every fucking thing in our society is shrink wrapped, put in a Nintendo 64 box, bright colors, photoshopped, graphic design, the font, everything. It's all eye candy. You know, it's all ear candy. It's all super stimulus. That was part of the conversation we were having too. Is like the audience is supposed to participate. You know, I am trying to make it this thatch that you have to, you know, it's there if you think about it. You know, if you put two and two together, it's all there. But you have to participate in the creation of that. You have to read it. You have to make the mental image, you know. You have to play the mental movie. You know, my poems are a mental thought movie in text, painting, vision, song. It's all the way that we talk, the dumbass way that we actually speak, or at least the way that I hear it. You know, I do think it's a you know, anthropological mission as well to just sort of capture the dialect. You know, this is how the world sounds to me. You know, I'm like a sound recordist, a habitat. This is what, you know, going out listening to the people in public, bringing that into the poem, even if it makes no fucking sense to anybody. You know, we live in a scattered ADHD, short attention span time. It seems to me, I don't know, we want to stay focused, but we also like diversion. We like jumping around. We like going from app to app to app to app in that kind of loop and refreshing, and so why not let the poem do that? You know, for me it is all one long poem. And when I mention these pop culture things or whatever, songs, movies, it's like a vision board, it's a mood board. You know, it's meant, this is expressing what we're going through. And it's like, it's all footnotes. It's all fucking footnotes. You know, it's all hyperlinks and footnotes. And so what's next? I think as poets, we do have to be writing I'm trying to fit the current world and the total sense sphere into my poems, how it feels. This is what reality feels like, encrypted in our language, as far as I can, as best as I can do, in all of the dimensions. I'm trying to touch all the fucking dimensions and put it all into the poem. Maybe it doesn't make any fucking sense when I read it for 2 minutes at an open mic or 10 minutes at a feature or whatever. I probably sound like I'm fucking this guy just went up and said a bunch of stuff. He just like listed off a bunch of shit. It's you know, it's when you know, whatever. So this is the story of our life. It's ongoing. You know, that's the project. That's what I'm interested in doing. I don't know. I guess if I need to spruce it up a little bit. I don't know. I read a lot of the shit out. These people are teaching college and they can't write. I'm already better than a lot of these fucking professors. So, you know, I fuck this country, fuck the institutions. If I have to do it on YouTube, if I have to do it in bars, if I have to be an outlaw, we're outlaw country, god damn it. We're not Nashville. We live in fucking trailers. We live in a tour bus. You know, we're playing honky tonks, okay? We go straight to the fucking drunks. We're selling beer, right? I have that line in my hulking nightclub mega university. That's what we've built here. We built a hulking nightclub mega university. Online, you know, online university and in real life. Hybrid. We have YouTube school. We have the YouTube lecture series sponsored by Bud Light. The, not Bud Light, no. And then we have the IRL, you know, nightclub church, mega university. Of all artists from all over the world. Musicians, clowns, theater artists, Tisch kids, NYU, poets, street poets, slam poets, rhyming poets, avant-garde poets, published poets, old poets, young poets, funny poets, sad poets, queer poets, trans poets, black poets, whitey. We have stand-up comedian. We have their toxic point of view well represented, you know, of course. But shout out to Mohammed Patel. I was thinking about his material. I think it's pretty funny. His name, Mohammed Patel. It might as well be Sharia. Obama, was it Sharia bin Laden 9/11 or whatever it is? I don't know. It's a sense of humor, complicity with fascism. I don't know. We're trying to find common ground here and healing frequencies. I don't, you know, hysteria, microdosing hysteria at the absurdity of you know, how we're being fucked. We have to confer about it, right? We have to touch base about, Jesus Christ, do you believe this? And let's let off a little steam. Oh God, poetry. Yeah, so yes, I want to make my poetry anti-commercial. That sounds so fucking stupid to even say. I guess it's self-sabotage. You're only hurting yourself. Nobody else cares. You go to open mic, you read it, people just think, well, that was a dud. What the fuck was that guy doing? To some degree, you're not like, you know, I'm not trying to ruin the party or anything, but you do kind of want to jam the signal and get people, thinking, listening in a different way, hearing for something different. You're there. I'm trying to give people tools, right? As much as and fill it with information. We live in an information age. I've always been a computer, the walking dictionary thing, memorizing facts. Right when I was in middle school, I was one of two kids that I made the geography bee all 4 years, which was like a trivia thing about geography. Right, I was one of two kids in my grade that I made it all 4 years, and the last year I made it to the final two because I'm good at memorizing shit. Or at least I was. I don't know. I was good at like facts. Somehow I retained that shit. I was interested in it. Capitals, whatever. Now it's like, to me, that's sort of a poetry job, right? Like John Ashbery was a quiz kid, right? On the radio. Being able to memorize things. But I learned quickly that that wasn't really, I didn't want to just regurgitate what the teachers were telling me. I learned very early on that I didn't want to do that. I learned that that wasn't really intelligence. Just memorizing things is not really intelligence. Now, I don't know what intelligence is. Knowing how to live life the right way is intelligence. And I'm obviously not good at that. But I was good at memorizing things. That's why I fill my poetry with a lot of trivia and information. I don't know. We live in an information age. It's content, it's material. Information about the world has value. A lot of it is bizarre and kind of poetic. Like this. I have this line in my poem about the astronauts could take one tape with them to space. Most of them chose country and western music. That was something that I heard Brian Eno talking about on YouTube. It was some documentary with him. And this is true. When the astronauts would go on the Apollo missions or whatever to fucking outer space, in the 60s and 70s, they could take one cassette with them to listen to in outer space. Maybe even in the 80s, right? And you're thinking, well, what would astronauts listen to? David Bowie or fucking, I don't know, Kraftwerk? What the fuck are astronauts listening to? They almost all chose country and western music. Which is kind of poetic in a way. That space would be, it kind of fits, because country really is the sound of long, wide open spaces, long distances between signposts, outposts, staring off into the. It's got these huge harmonies, huge notes, huge chords. That's kind of like space, right? The stars, beholding kind of all that. And so putting something like that, I mean, I stole it. I ripped it from Brian Eno. Uh, you know, if I did that in a movie or something, would I get sued? I don't know. But it feels like something worth passing along. It feels poetic, and it feels like, I don't know. I'm from Ohio. A lot of astronauts are from Ohio, right? Neil Armstrong, the first guy on the moon, supposedly, in the fake moon conspiracy, from Wapakoneta, Ohio. And John Glenn was a senator. He was from, like, Muskingum. He lived in Grandview. I had a poem about that. John Glenn lived in the Summit Chase, which was a big building, big condo building in Grandview. And he was the first guy to orbit the planet or something, the first American to orbit the planet or whatever. So Ohio, kind of the home of astronauts, like myself. We're all astronauts now. Everybody's obsessed with fucking space. Everybody's obsessed with going to Mars. Get your ass to Mars. We live in science fiction, fantasy fucking world. People want to dissociate. They want escapism. And they think the answers lie in space. They want to privatize space. They want to make money off of it. Basically, they're already planning for more growth. We got to grow to space, you know. We got to take grow to everywhere we can. Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to resist, you know. I'm resisting colonizing and growing. You know, if people I come from this kind of self-defeating kind of like, I don't know, the modern world, modern success, uh I don't know, just like trying to meet people's expectations, you know, get people's validation, get people's. I mean, I am undisciplined. I am probably like, you know, I've always been less effective as an artist, probably, I'd say, than I'd like to be. I've never really had the effect on people like I would have wanted, you know? Uh, people are not, especially with poetry, you know? I've always been sort of a liminal outsider, fringe character, not really a part of any, you know, uh, uh, important, for lack of a better word, poetry circle. You know, no one's ever like approved of my work, or even, and so, uh, but I feel like playing those games is, I'm not good at it, and it feels like against my soul or something. It feels like that's not right. It's a shortcut. Me, it's like, I don't know. I'm out here suffering. You know, it's like I've designed this perfect life to just like, deprive myself, be surrounded by people that are succeeding where I failed, or have what I want, or, there's a lot of irony in my life about how circumstances arrange themselves to just like perfectly foil whatever it is I want. I never really get what I want because it's funnier that way. I don't know, and that, it feels Catholic. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just who I am. I didn't expect that. As an adult, I probably, like all millennials, didn't we all expect to get what we wanted, right? That's what happened to us as kids, generally. Maybe not every single time, but generally speaking, I'd say I got what I wanted more. I don't know. Sort of. I mean, we were not overly spoiled. We didn't have everything we wanted, but I got a Power Ranger toy. But I don't know. Is that what supposedly being an adult, right, is about learning? I don't know. I think if you want things, there's definitely truth to the idea that like you do have to like work your ass off for them, but you also have to be smart about how you do that. And well, it's also like there's this whole game, like in this with poetry, with writing. It's not about like I wrote a lot. I've written probably more than just about anybody over my life, I would say. I mean, I've really sat down but it hasn't really added up to much. I've never written a whole novel. I've never really published that many short stories or anything. I never really, I've got my sort of like, tossed off diary books that I do. That's not necessarily the same thing as writing a 300-page novel and like working it over and spending time, you know, years and years, whatever, getting it right, which is what you're supposed to do. But, uh, that doesn't matter. It's like no one gives a fuck. It's like if you get into a fucking MFA program when you're 22 years old. And I know it's just like such a cliche that I complain about this constantly, but yeah. So yes, to some degree, yes, my poetry is like meant to be aggravating, anti-commercial, not a product, not publishable. Um, It's meant to be difficult to read and sort of obfuscating, uh, and cryptic, because that's how I feel. I don't know. Is that a dumb goal? Is that a CIA goal? Is that a psyop? Is it better to communicate in earnest, kind of emotional truth message to people? I'd like to do that. You can't beat that. But is it the ultimate white privilege what I'm doing? To just write gibberish? Is language poetry posing as sort of this political movement that's anti-commercial, anti-big grammar, or whatever, the way that the publishing industry in this country wants things to come down, the way that they want people to write. I am sort of at war with all of that. Uh, it is a war on cliche. You're trying to like chisel away at the edifices. It's an iconoclasm. You're busting the surface because you want people to think deeper about how they're putting things across, portraying things, falling back on definitions, look closer, say something more specific, turn over some rock that hasn't been unturned yet, to use a cliche or an idiom. I mean, there's something to be said for plug and play and finding found language as well. That's part of our lexicon now, is found poems and ready-made. The thing about a phrase like fast food, even though it's kind of a stoner thing that sounds like it might be profound, it's also a ready-made, right? Throwing in pop culture a lot of my poems have like song Chinese Democracy, right, is a poem title. That's a ready-made, right? It's Guns N' Roses, Chinese Democracy, but it's sort of pertinent to the geopolitical situation right now, right? We're in this sort of like, I don't know, Cold War so of sorts with China, and TikTok. I'm constantly talking about that's sort of a Chinese democracy, at least in this country. And it's just kind of a funny like pipe dream or something, like, oh, it's a Chinese democracy. It's like, it sounds like, it can't. It sounds like, I don't know, a figure of speech or something almost. Uh, which is, those are also ready-mades, figures of speech, things like that, things like "you be the judge." It's like, uh, those are the poetry of sort of the common people, the idioms and the figures of speech that we sort of plug in, that are sort of universal, but they're also like a folk currency. The Coen brothers movies are full of that kind of stuff, taking things that just people say that are kind of fun and giving it to a character or something. You be the judge. Uh, and so I don't know. I am like a bunch of cliches about democracy or socialism, where it's like, yeah, I want to get the voice of the people in there. I want to get the common speech. I want to sound like regular talking. I want to, um, how regular people talk, not how super privileged Ivy League. I mean, especially we live in this era of such a huge wealth gap. It's like, who the fuck do you think is going to these colleges? Who is rich enough to live in New York? Who's wealthy enough to get a job at the New Yorker or the New York Times? Who's got that pedigree? I mean, everybody there, everybody at Columbia University, wherever, these sort of like legacy institutions that hold all the power, that esteem, who gets to be seen and who gets taken seriously and who gets read and who gets written about, and it's all fucking extremely privileged people who traveled the world. They dip into New York, then they fly to fucking wherever, Paris or Tokyo, or fucking back to Florida, Miami. I don't know. Trying to put like class awareness out there and put a kind of roughness into like a very smooth culture. Maybe there's no point. Uh, but it's like I don't know. My style did develop over years and years and years of doing this. It's like I've made all these decisions because I've been down all these paths before. This is what I want to present, and I don't know. It's like people want to participate in the commercialism. You know, it doesn't seem like there is like a counterculture. There's homogenous, you know, monolithic corporate culture like Marvel or whatever the fuck, Taylor Swift. And then there's like meaningless shit that happens on Instagram where we're like sort of bartering with each other in this economy that doesn't really matter. I mean, like, good for people. No, I think the Patreon thing is fucking annoying, to be honest. And the Substack thing drives me nuts as well, where it's like, you know, I just find it obnoxious that every single writer or whoever, everybody who used to work for a magazine or who, you know, who works for fucking some kind of magazine or whatever, cool website, BuzzFeed, whatever the fuck it is, they're all on Twitter and they're trying to get people to subscribe to their Patreon. Pay me $5 a month. You know, Tim Heidecker, right, does this, right, with On Cinema, where it's like he crowdsources the budget where you have to fucking pay $50 to watch the goddamn show. So you literally can't watch it all unless you're a member of the High Network or whatever. And it's like, I don't know, like that is such a huge amount of money to ask. You know, I'm gonna pay every single fucking writer $5 like a month. Like, I wish that I had enough money to fucking do that, but this is one of the things that just drives me nuts about poetry and our culture at large is like they want to economize everything. They want to financialize everything. They don't want, you know, everything is that makes everything privatized, right? Everything is a financial transaction. It's like the poets want money for everything. You know, if you do a reading now, they want to get paid. They want to get paid for their poem if you put it in a fucking magazine or something. It's like, on the one hand, like, I get that, right? Like, poets deserve to get paid. They're doing work. That what they're doing is hard. It's creating value, blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, it's like, it's just more capitalism. You know, like, fuck capitalism. The thing about, at least for me, maybe I'm self-righteous about it, and misguided. But the thing that I liked about poetry was that it was not economized, financialized, exploited like every other it's nice that there's one thing in our fucking culture that like literally people don't even want. It's like vegetables. People don't even want this. You know, they want KFC double downs. They want Baconator triple stacks. Or, you know, I don't know, fucking some kind of bowl or whatever. Or a cheesy gordita crunch. A taco made out of Doritos. You know, it's like, when are we going to get out of the stunt food era? When are people going to lie? When are people going to realize the consequences are just not worth it? We don't need these mutant foods anymore. It's a sign. The Bible warned us about this. Haven't you read the fucking Bible? As soon as there's the beast with two backs, they're talking about the cheesy gordita crunch. It's unholy. You're not meant to have those two tacos slammed together in that way. You're not meant to have the Dorito Loco taco, okay? It's ungodly. It's a sin. It's the fucking it's Sodom and Gomorrah. We've arrived at the ultimate hedonistic pleasure dome of hell in sin. Sodom and Gomorrah at Taco Bell. And okay, so anyway, I lost a viewer. Fuck you. Whoever just left, fuck you. You hurt me. Anytime somebody leaves, go fuck yourself. I hate you. Okay, now the other two people left. Well, fuck you too. Okay, well, I guess that's what happened when you get negative and high. I guess I'm super high. It's just a joke. Go watch somebody stream themselves playing a wrestling game. You fucking animals. You goddamn fucking animals. Bred in circuses. Go watch fucking Dr. Disrespect, you morons. I'm going to talk more about my poetry, you fucking assholes. Is it because I swore? It's because I started swearing and yelling. Yeah, let me talk more about my poetry and how it's not meant for people to like it. It's meant to be unlikable. I'm the only one with the fucking balls big enough, okay? I'm the only one with the fucking balls big enough to get up at goddamn open mics, okay? And read what the fuck I want to read with total freedom and total impunity. And fuck the critics, fuck the academics, fuck the pencil neck geeks and the twerps and the twits. They're all just fucking twits. And I don't know. I guess I'm just a fucking hack. Someday there will be a Library of America edition. Mark my words. The complete vlogs. There will be a vlog one, and there will be like my poems in one. The complete poetic, the Cosmopolitan Micro Diaries, that will be one Library of America. The Matt Proctor Library of America edition. So one edition will be my complete Cosmopolitan Micro Diaries and collected poems. And then the other one will be the transcripts from my live streams. That'll be bound. $40 retail. Of course, I'll be getting paid. I'm the poet. I deserve to win grants and book prizes. And that's all that matters. Oh, you won this book prize. Oh, wow. You won the Wyndham Lewis Prize or the fucking Micro Creek Milkweed. The Milkweed Editions Micro Penis Award. Oh, God, I'm sorry. I've been hanging around fucking... I'm canceling myself. Forget it. I'm canceled. I'm so canceled. Oh, my God. I think I've got a headache because of my wisdom teeth. I've had a headache for the last few hours. My diet's plummeted in quality. This is what I do for poetry, okay? I'm really living it. I'm living the dream, people. This is what real fucking poets look like. Okay? This is what a real fucking poet looks like, okay? Right here. Take a good fucking look, okay? Get a fucking good picture of that. Because that's what a real fucking poet looks like right there, okay? Ay, ay, ay. Hacking it out with the real motherfuckers. The savants. The listeners. The word processors. The pontificators. The secular priests. The relapsed Catholics. We're all Catholic. I don't know. Like I said, it's all too Catholic. I'm too fucking Catholic. What is weird about it is like my dad is not religious at all. And I feel like he's the one that sort of imparted a lot of my anti-success techniques. He was always kind of warning me away from any kind of... I remember when I was 9 years old, I wanted to see the Mortal Kombat movie at the movie theater so fucking bad. And he told me he'd take me. And I waited. And this was before, you know, computers and everything. I mean, we had Super Nintendo, but we only had so many games. You know, you had to go out and rent a game or something if you wanted to play something new. And I don't even know if we had cable TV, you know. And so I waited forever for my dad to take me to the Mortal Kombat movie. And he eventually just said, no, we're not going. I don't want to go. I'm not driving you. And I didn't see the Mortal Kombat movie in theaters, okay? That's my trauma, everyone. That's what childhood in the 90s was like, okay? Your parents just fucking deprived you and acted like, well, tough shit. You couldn't just get every fucking movie ever made on a fucking iPad and instantly. You know? We do have an abundance in that regard, but that, I don't know, these things taught me about like wanting things in a certain way, which was very like Buddhist, right? This is something that I really, I don't know, kind of to my detriment, kind of took ownership of in my younger years, was like not not wanting to be an ego person who did things for worldly success and for accolades and for, and but I mean, it's not like I had any success anyway. I think that they should just teach you, like, in adulthood, it's okay to fail. You need to get used to the impact of that, and you need to lean into it, actually. Like, failure is not something you should take personally, particularly like with performance. It's very easy to take that like incredibly personally. With your art or your writing, most of my behavior as an adult has been trying to protect my own sense of like, I'm good at this. you know and so I'm trying to just keep other people from destroying that. I'm trying to keep that little flame alive in myself, like maybe I am a good writer. I don't know why that matters. Why the fuck do I care? It's just an adult sickness where it's like, I want to be the smartest kid in the class. I want to say the smart thing. I want to raise my head and say this fucking smart thing and have the teacher go, this kid's the smartest kid. It's a walking dictionary. It's pathetic. Why do people want to be writers? It's pathetic. I don't know. But we have to share our story. And, I have this idea in myself. I don't even know. No one has ever, not. And so, when you're going to open mics, when you're sharing your work with people, when you're making yourself vulnerable like that, and, like I said, I'm kind of going up against the grain because I want to do something that's distorted, atonal, like a Cecil Taylor piece, right? I think that space is the place, right? Why not go further that way? Sometimes,